The breathing mark?
Yeah, because apparently that didn't sink in.
Okay. Let's go back and look at that.
I've read it, it just doesn't, it needs help.
Okay. So every vowel that begins a word has a breathing mark over it. If you have a word that begins with a vowel, it's got a breathing mark.
Right.
So if it's, trying to find where it is in the book here.
I'm on 1.5.
1.5, okay.
It's when it starts talking about the vowels and then it goes over to diphthongs.
Okay. There it is, the bottom of page 1.6.
Okay.
Following words, akuo and hagias. Okay, so akuo starts with an alpha, and it's got a smooth breathing mark. Typically, I don't like their marks there. It looks more like an apostrophe. And then if it's a rough breathing mark, it goes the other way.
Okay, now say them.
Okay, this is ah and this is ha. So it just adds an H sound. A rough breather adds an H sound.
So if it goes, if it's open, if it looks like a C, it has the in front of it. Every vowel?
Yes. So these are just like apostrophes, you know, the curved single
But they
apostrophe.
do stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and another thing to note, if you have,
Oh, you're awesome, thank you.
I had trouble with that too, so I made this.
Ah, thank you.
Oh,
Oh, this is really
If you
good.
guys think it's
oh,
helpful.
nice.
It's amazing.
Anything, thank you. No, this is a
Thank you
great
very
program.
much.
Right here, and
Yes.
so
Okay.
if a word starts with two vowels, a diphthong, hi, haima, the rough breather goes over the second vowel. Or the smooth, or the
But do you
smooth.
make the ah sound at all? It would just say A.
This is I.
I. It
Yeah.
would just say I.
Yeah, with the smooth breather, it would just be I. With the rough breather, it's haima. Okay?
Okay. Oh, gee. Okay.
It's hard because the H can out.
So A, alpha, iota,
Alpha, iota.
it says I, but with the mark, that mark, it says hi.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So every word that begins with a vowel has either a smooth breather or a rough breather.
Okay.
And just to confuse you a little bit,
Oh, no,
if you have
it's
a
too
word,
late.
so if you have a word that's, say, Roma, and it starts with a rho, it'll have a rough breather too. And
I remember reading about the R, but I didn't know it yet.
just try to pronounce that.
So,
Roma? Is it pronounced any different, is it
No.
just Roma?
It's just Roma.
I just throw the rough breather on there for kicks.
It's just, yeah, for kicks.
yeah, that's it.
Everybody knows, but it's just, that's part of the Greek.
Does a row at the beginning of the word always have a breathing mark?
Yes.
Is that
So
the
alphabets
only,
and row.
It's
Yeah.
always a rough breather.
is that the
Oh,
only?
it's always a row.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the only consonant that has a breathing mark?
As far as I
Make
recall,
yourselves
yeah.
yeah.
And it's always a rough breather.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's, I don't know. Anyway, does that answer your question?
It does. It
Okay.
explains a whole lot.
Could you write out the alphabet right now?
No,
Any of you?
probably not yet.
The whole thing by memory?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, practice it at home.
I am.
Okay. Practice writing it out, because what I'd like to have you do is to be able to write out the article. So you take a piece of paper and you write singular, and you write plural. This is a goal that you can work toward. Masculine, feminine, neuter, masculine, feminine, neuter, and then over here you've got nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative. So now there's 24 different forms. I've got paper and pencils here if you want.
Yeah.
Help yourself. So there's 24 different forms of the articles, so you're gonna, ha, I have ha, he, ta. Do the singulars first, and then it's tu, tes, tu, and then to. Don't be coot to, you don't have to worry about the iota subscript. Just ignore that. And then ton, tan. And this one is the same. So there are some that are the same. So for instance, ta and ta, accusative and nominative, are the same. And then these two are the same. These two are the same. So there's several that are similar in the singular, and the same is true in the plural. Anyway, you don't need me to write those out for you, but they're in the book. What page are they on?
4.
2-4. So I encourage you to get a piece of paper out, mark it the way I did, and then see how many of the blanks you can fill in. Because it's just, practice makes permanent. I used to say, practice makes perfect, but if you practice the wrong thing, it doesn't make perfect, it makes bad. So, anyway, those are the two things that this author, and I would encourage you as well to memorize, are the alphabet and the article. So, because as you're going to see as we get into this today, Joyce, did you have access? So you had no access to the internet, so you couldn't look at the video.
Correct.
So did you know we have a video for each of the 2 classes we've done so far?
Yes.
It's on YouTube.
I didn't need the first one because I was here.
Yes. Well,
And then they
hopefully it's helpful to review if you need to as well.
Sure.
So, anybody have any questions so far? Let's look at the. Did you do the exercise?
That was really hard.
That was really weird.
Okay, let's look at it.
Now, I have a question.
Too dated. Oh, yeah, the political comments.
The way this
Did you
was,
understand?
the way we were supposed to translate it, are those actually Greek words?
No, we're not translating.
Okay, that's what I thought.
They're English words.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I was
Right.
just like,
Right.
oh my gosh, what am I reading?
So this is good practice pronouncing.
Which word?
We're on, it's worksheet 2-1.
Sell ads to make some bread. I was
So,
like,
do you like that? Make some bread.
That wasn't
Sell
the
some ads,
only
make
part. I
bread.
was like, is he trying to make a political comment here using Greek? I think he is.
Well, did you see, those of us who have gray hair, we know what that means
I
because
know, I haven't.
I told you that in class last time, that there was an expression from the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the only expression though.
Oh, okay.
I was stuck forever on wheels because I was like,
Oh.
I haven't heard that forever.
I was like,
are they looking for like the big wheels, like the little trike?
I know.
I was looking by that, and then I thought of the song.
That's a ride, okay?
And
Wheels are a ride.
Cronkite, I've never heard.
Oh, yeah. You know.
Oh, yeah.
I've never heard.
Oh, no.
So were there any that you marked that you were stuck with or you couldn't find?
I was stuck on Kai
So
forever.
Oh,
they just stuck that in because that's the real Greek word.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, when you told us that there was a Greek word in there, I thought you meant a word that we've adapted from Greek into English.
No.
So I stared at that first Kai for, I have to admit, like 15, 20 minutes trying to make it into something else.
So you got that was the Greek word that was in there.
Yes, finally.
What does Kai mean?
And,
And.
yeah, I skipped that for a while until I finally
What is this?
saw somewhere it said there's a Greek word, and said, oh,
Yeah. Well, those who were here last week, I warned ahead of time.
yeah.
So, and you didn't find a Greg in there anywhere, did you?
Greg, yes,
Oh, yeah.
but not Judy. Wasn't it Judy?
No,
that
I
you
just
said?
had Judy.
Oh, yeah, there was no Judy, excuse me, yeah.
There's no Judy,
Right,
but they wanted an answer for Judy.
yeah. So,
No wonder I couldn't get that answer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned there was no Judy, so. Anyway, yeah, there's Greg for sure. Stephanie, Greg, Martha, and Ruth. I circled the four names
Yeah.
because I was going through trying to find it. Anyway, it's, Ruth could copy it. No, it says copy, excuse me. Ruth could
Copy,
copy
okay.
it.
It says copy? No, it just says cop, doesn't
I
it?
thought it was like co-op.
Oh, oh, so that's like steal,
Yeah,
to cop it.
yeah.
I have a pen mark there, so I don't know what it said before.
It's another,
Oh, no wonder I was.
Yeah, Ruth could cop it and take it,
that's another
What's
old word
Copy
that,
mean? That means.
take it to her room and
Can't
lay
do
it
that
down
anyway.
with a rope,
With a what?
with a rope.
Oh.
And tie it down, okay.
And let it down.
There, all through here, I have some words that I just never did figure out. I just,
Okay. Here, let me read through it for you.
okay.
Okay? So, second sentence. I'm going to do something about it. How many of you guys are with me?
Okay, I have a question. Just with the word how.
How? Yeah, see, that's a rough breather.
That's a rough breather, so that's why we got that.
H sound. Yeah.
Okay, that explains something.
Next line, you. So you've got a vowel at the beginning of that word, and then you've got a diphthong after that. So, ye, oo. You aren't able to do anything. Phone your congressperson.
Yeah.
copy.
I don't know. You gotta do something. How about a protest parade? Yeah. You must make some signs and demonstrate. Will somebody tell how a girl ought to dress for parades? How many guys and gals, what? Question?
There's no vowel in girl.
Nope.
Okay.
Yes. Well, you won't find any Greek words with no vowels. You'll find Greek words with no consonants for vowels. How many guys and gals are willing to do it? Not on Thursday afternoon. I got a date to the beauty parlor. Now, Martha, that tells that you aren't committed.
It's just sloppy writing now.
Hey, how about an underground parade? How about an underground paper?
Paper.
Underground paper. I think there is a mimeograph in the girls' dorm in the basement. You could sell ads to make some bread. Ruth could cop it and take it to her room and let it down with a rope. Are you talking about ads? Now, silly. No, silly. About a mimeograph. I will do it. Okay?
No.
Maybe we could take a poll and present it to the school board. No, that's too strict. You want to be rebels. The trouble is, there aren't any participating. Get all the participant, get all to participate. Thank you. This is the name of the game. You gotta get more brothers and sisters to participate. That would be,
Perfect, yes.
there's not enough, even if we get all there are. This makes the smallest parade in the history of student rebellion. There's not enough distance from the first to the last guy parading. And wheels? That's a question mark. And wheels? You've got to get some big campus, big wheels, so it gets. Oh, this is a big wheel. This is not cars. This is a big wheel on campus, right?
Right,
The
yeah,
important
which
person.
is a term that lasted for about 5 minutes, I think. And I'm a student of the 70s, so.
So it gets some notice. Say it, like the news with Cronkite, Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. Like, who, for instance? Like Greg. Yeah. And Stephanie. There it is. This gal really do them in. Yeah, Greg and Stephanie. Our cause is right. Come on, let's all say it together. Our cause is right, our cause is right, our cause is right.
What was the word after yeah and Stephanie? This, what?
Gal, G-A-L''D.
What is it?
This gal would. This gal
This gal.
would.
I couldn't get it.
Oh, that makes, wait, this gal would, who would say that?
Is that even a contraction?
Who would say
that's in
that?
the-
This gal, no.
I had it
You've
as
got to go
gold.
back in
I
time.
thought it was gold.
Yeah, I was like, that can't be gold, that, like, doesn't
Doesn't
even
make
make sense.
sense, but nothing else in
That's
that
where it would make perfect sense.
So the scene takes place on campus.
Yeah.
Is something too traditional to try was to take a poll.
Yeah.
Person was mentioned, Walter Cronkite. Principal problem was they didn't have the influence of people with them, and the plan was devised to steal a mimeograph.
And they know what a mimeograph is.
Yes.
Kudos
Do
to
you have any
them.
idea what a mimeograph is?
No idea.
No idea?
No idea. I've never even heard of it.
I don't
My
know.
mother made a living with that, and she was.
You don't know what a
English-
mimeograph is? Oh my gosh, I used to go home
English
purple.
teachers, and they did nothing but run mimeographs in the 60s.
The first church I went to in 1981, that's all we had to print.
Still
was
have it.
mimeographs.
Yeah, the bulletins,
81?
everything.
Wow.
Wait, what
Well, we
is
could have bought a
this?
copy.
It's a
but we couldn't
drum.
afford it.
And you have to make a copy, so you put your paper that you want to copy in between these two sheets, and we ran it through was it a copier?
I think
On
you're thinking
ours?
of a spirit duplicator.
Is that it?
Mimeograph uses a wax master.
It was like, wasn't that like
And that's the
blue?
one that you
It
could
came
trace
out
on
blue,
it.
right?
Yeah.
You would write, if I was doing a
It's wax, so you had to hit it with the typewriter hard enough so that it would make an
the indentation.
indentation.
Right,
And then the ink would go through that indentation. that you
Right.
made. Yeah.
right.
But the spirit duplicator, you would just take a colored thing and write on it, and then you could run maybe 100 sheets, and then it would run out.
Yeah, you'd have to put on the drum and turn the handle.
You turn the crank and each page comes out at the
Yeah.
crank.
Purple,
Different colors.
purple.
Yeah, so, so then there was one last assignment on this, did you get that?
No.
Yeah,
No? So it had you look at
the parts of speech.
another page, page 6-2, which had another Greek font. what you did, Lisa. That's
You're
awesome.
welcome. It was a good learning exercise.
I'm sure, yeah.
That's so good.
Oh, this is from an interlinear. So, 1 Peter chapter 2, this gives you a look at what an interlinear looks like if you've not seen one before. But 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 3, in English it says, if ye tasted that good the Lord is. Okay? So,
I didn't see this.
It was just the 6 words.
so that's what they wanted you to do, is look there, and then you take those 6 words, and, did you do this, Bethany and Lisa? Okay. So the,
English parts of speech were.
Oh, that's where,
It happens to us all.
so it's
where does it say?
It's two workbook 2-4.
Oh, I see, turn to page 6.
Yeah. So the first English word is if, right? And the Greek word is
I pronounce it A.
a, correct?
A.
And in English it would be a
Conjunction,
conjunction,
isn't it?
or, yeah, I guess, if.
That's what Google says.
Yeah.
I'm curious, when it said parts of speech of the Greek words and the parts of speech of the English words, that kind of threw me.
Yeah, well, the part of speech of the Greek word would be called particle, and he didn't, there was no way you would know that. But it would be called a particle. The next English word, there's actually 2 of them. Ye tasted, or you tasted. You know why it's in the King James? Because there's no...
There was no other Bible.
Because there's no copyright on it.
Yeah,
Oh, right, yeah.
Really?
yeah.
I
Well,
never
it's-
thought of that.
Yeah, so you can put it up for free.
That's why the Gideons
Yeah.
pass them out, because
Yeah, so if you tasted, so what you learn from this is that the pronoun and the verb are in the Greek word. So it's a
In one
verb.
word.
In one word, yeah.
Okay, so it is a verb.
Yes, it's a verb, and in English, it's a pronoun and a verb. And in Greek, it's just a verb. Because we're going to learn that in the next lesson, lesson 4, how verbs are constructed. So, okay? Can anybody pronounce that Greek word?
I was just working on
the goose us there.
Say again?
The goose us there?
Only it's egusaste. Yeah. And it means to taste.
Okay.
And it,
Would it actually be different if it was I tasted?
yes,
It would be a different word.
yeah.
But it'd be the same part of speech.
Yes, and if it was not, and it's what's called an aorist tense, so it's got an epsilon on the front of it, so it wouldn't have that if it was just I tasted,
Okay.
or I taste. So there's what we call a lexical form of a verb or any noun, and that's the form of the word that you look up in the lexicon. So if you want to know, for instance, if you tried to look up egusaste in a lexicon, you won't find it anywhere, because that's not the lexical form. There's another name for that, it's called the lemma, L-E-M-M-A. That's the lexical form of a word. So we need some help after we've looked into the interlinear, and we see, okay, we recognize that that's a verb. Now we're going to go, I'm going to look that up and see what that word means, or what are the, I mean, we know it means to taste from the interlinear, but are there other possible translations for that word? You know, you look up any word in an English dictionary, you might have several different possible meanings for that, depending on the context of how it's used. Same thing is true with Greek, is that you look up a word and it may have several different possible meanings, depending on what the context is. So you need another tool to be able to look up this form of the word and it's called an analytical lexicon. It has every single word in the New Testament in every single form
Whoa.
in the New Testament in it.
How big of a book is that?
It's not that big, because it doesn't go into the meanings very deep.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't give you, I'll bring a copy of it next time perhaps, and you can look at it. There's also another book that's actually, there's an interlinear I found that has a code over every word in the interlinear that actually parses every single word. So you can look at it and it'll say, oh, okay, this is aorist, active, indicative, third person singular from, you know, and it has that over every single word, so it parses it for you. Or, if you have the internet, I can give you a couple of websites where you just mouse over a word and it'll parse the word for you.
Oh, that's cool.
So, much easier, much cheaper, and it's right there on the internet, so. Third word is, in English, is that. And how do you pronounce the word in Greek?
Okay.
Hati.
What is it?
Hati.
Hati.
Oh,
Oh, the darn thing.
Got a thing over it?
It's
Is
got
there
a,
a breath mark?
Oh, okay. I think that's just a blob in my book.
Oh, it is kind of a blob on.
oh, is it?
It is.
Well,
So it's
it's got
Well, it's,
two marks.
yeah, it's got a rough breather and an acute.
Say it
kind of
again.
ran together.
Say it again.
Hati.
Hati.
Yeah. So,
So I misread that. I thought
as
that
in
was
she
a
was
gamma.
a. Oh, there we go.
Did he just say
I didn't say
You
that.
can't say that on film, Gary.
Okay, and in both English and Greek, it's a conjunction, okay?
Okay.
Translated that, sometimes it's translated because. The fourth word in English is good, and in Greek it is, say it again?
Christos.
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 Christos. And so when you say it, try to say it where the accent is, Christos.
Christos.
Yeah. And in English and Greek, it's
Adjective.
an adjective, yes. So, good. Christos. There's other words for good. Kalos. Agathos. Yeah.
Anything with you.
So, the fifth word is ha.
Oh,
Has a rough breather.
it does.
And
Definite article.
it's the definite article, yeah, or just the article.
Wouldn't this one run with the next one? Like it'd be
Hakurios.
Curious?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the last one is a noun. And then in English, it's got a noun and a verb because the verb is understood in Greek. And you know that it needs the verb to be after it because it's got the article in front of kurios. So, kurios. So if you go to page 19, I mentioned this last time, but let's look at the Gospel of John. So the second line there is kai, theos, ein, ha, logos. Halagos, okay? And in English, we translate that, and the word was God. Okay? So an, kai is and, you learned that. And then halagos, you've probably heard that before, the word. And then ein is was, and then theos is God. So, and the word was God, but the verb is in there. In this case, it's. By the way, the verb comes in a lot of different forms. This is the verb to be, which is about as irregular as English to be is. To be is, was, were, am, been, being, all part of,
Words that don't have anything to do with each other.
all from the same verb, to be. Yeah. So, but anyway, the article indicates that logos is the subject of that phrase. The word was God. That's actually a whole sentence. Okay? So, anyway. So you did that. Let's go to lesson 3. I'm going to just kind of read through it and we'll talk about it. We have some really good examples in here.
Sorry.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if you want to have a piece of paper beside you. We're gonna do some diagramming here.
Can I get a pencil?
Yes,
Pass that down so I can see it.
do you want a pencil, anybody?
I believe.
Pencil? Definitely. You got one. The basic unit in any language is the sentence. Essentially, y'all got the page 3-1?
Yeah.
I think you're on worksheet 3-1.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So the basic unit in any language is a sentence. Essentially, a sentence relates a happening. This is really basic, but I think it will help as we build on this. Take, for example, this happening, validated. It is a verb. That's why I chose the word starting with a V. So the sentence, at least in Greek, more or less builds up around the verb. So let's diagram a verb. So here you've got verb and validated. Okay? Stop me when you have questions, okay? Usually somebody or something makes the happening happen. We call what does this the subject. In this example, we make him the notary. I bet you're wondering what the N stands for. So subject, verb, notary, validated. More often than not, this happening happens to somebody or something. We call the victim, even when he's lucky like that. His humor is interesting. And because the logical flow goes from the cause through the action to the object, we draw an arrow over the verb, which points in this direction. In our example, we make the receiver of the action of the verb an affidavit. The notary validated affidavit. Okay? Are you tracking so far? Very often this is happening for somebody or something else's benefit who doesn't actually receive the blow of the action. We call this the indirect object. In the sentence we are building, we make a deputy the indirect object. So notary validated affidavit, we would say in English, for the deputy. Or, yeah, for the deputy. Okay. In Greek, you don't need a preposition there. Oh, as a matter of fact, he talks about that here. If you've learned how to diagram an English sentence, it will help you a lot now. However, not in every instance. Take here, for example, the English indirect object is awkward. It is a prepositional phrase and is diagrammed like this. So it's a prepositional phrase that's coming off the verb. Validated for the deputy, the affidavit. But in Greek, it's not a prepositional phrase. And the to or for or what have you is not to be considered as understood. It is not understood. You just use a plain ordinary noun. So we decide he has led us here to put well, we saw that at the bottom of the previous page. Make a slash. This is going to be helpful if you can diagram like this. It's not that complicated. And we'll probably do some practice with that. The places on our diagram which we have named, subject, direct object, and indirect object, are noun slots, better called substantival slots. I introduced you to that word last week, substantival. Substantive is another word for a noun, okay? But sometimes something functions as a substantive and it's not a noun. It could be a participle that is used as a substantive. It could be an infinitive that's used as a substantive, and we'll get into that. Okay, so that's why we use a different word, because sometimes a noun is used in an adjectival way, and we'll see that in just a minute. So that means it's used like an adjective because it's describing a noun. So now we're going to talk about the adjective slot. So your diagram has a place to insert adjectives and adverbs so as to show the connection between the nouns and their adjectives and the verb and its adverbs. Take the sentence. The new notary validated the appropriate affidavit for the dejected deputy. He's keeping the letters A, D, and N for a reason. So I wonder if I know why I made the alliterations. What is the definition of concord? We talked about that last week. You remember what that is?
It's when like the
Just wanna read.
tenses and the gender and everything
Yeah.
match between the
Yeah,
connected words.
some things match, right? Specifically, it's when there's an agreement of gender, number, and sometimes case, not tense.
What is that called?
Concord. Let me show you where it is in the book. It's on page 2.2, second paragraph. This is called concord. Pronouns have gender, number, and case and must agree with the noun to which they refer. Concord. Okay? It's also mentioned on page 2.4, second paragraph. The article has gender, number, and case and always agrees with the noun to which is attached. It's called concord. So number and gender agree, sometimes case, and we'll see why case doesn't always agree. Okay? So you can fill that in, agreement of gender, number, and sometimes case. So he says, I've only located 3 substantival slots on my diagram. Here's another. Often a noun can serve as an adjective. He saw a city slicker. Makes the noun, city, an adjective. Okay? In English, it's the same word, city. It's the same form, whether it's used as an adjective or a noun. In Greek, it'll be a different form. And that will tell you exactly where it fits in the sentence. The Greeks were sort of shy on adjectives, so they did a lot of using nouns to describe. Most of the time, you can't tell the difference between hagios, anthropos, literally the holy man, and anthropos, hagiosmo, literally the man of holiness. In meaning, you can't tell the difference in meaning. There is a difference in concord, which we'll discuss shortly. So, we'll talk about where those words come from. So if I were to use the nouns for adjectives, I would then write, the government notary validated the draft affidavit for the grand jury deputy. And I would diagram the sentence, putting these nouns turned into adjectives in their adjectival slots like this. So the government notary validated the draft affidavit for the grand jury deputy. Okay? Still makes sense. If we were to say it in Greek, well, we'll get to that down here a little further. So now he tells you why he has N, G, A, and D. Because if you've been learning the articles, you know that nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative are the 4 basic cases. Okay? So the subject slot is they call nominative, hence the notary. The adjective slot they call the genitive, hence government, graft, and grand jury. The indirect slot they call dative, so we've got the deputy. And the direct object slot they call accusative, so that's where we have affidavit. So you should know those 4 cases. I mean, if you're learning the article, you're going to know what the cases are already. But those are the main cases. Now there is one more case. That's on the next page, I guess. Okay. So if you look at what he's diagrammed here, you got nominative is the subject, then you got the verb, and then you got accusative is the direct object, and dative is the indirect object, and then each of the nouns describing those 3 main nouns are all in the genitive case. So now he asks the question, how are you going to know which genitive goes with which noun? And generally, the genitive follows the noun that it describes. That's the bottom line on the page there. The genitive noun usually follows the word it's describing.
Does Greek have an ablative case? An ablative case?
Yeah, call it ablative.
Ablative, oh.
Have you ever, is there another language that uses that?
Latin,
Latin? And you called it ablative?
yeah.
Okay,
I call it ablative.
that's fine. I've always heard it called ablative, so. Yeah, there's 8 cases. There's 8 cases, and I'll show you that in a couple of pages.
But we only need to learn the 4.
Learn the 4, because there's, the genitive has 2 cases, genitive and ablative. The forms are exactly the same, the use is different. The dative case has 3 cases, dative, locative, and instrumental. The forms are exactly the same. There is a 5th, an 8th case called vocative, but it's almost always exactly the same as nominative in form. Rarely, very rarely, he says, does it have another form. Okay? Stop me again if you have a question. You've memorized the 24 forms of the article, right? Top of page 34. You understood well enough about the singular and plural, and it wasn't too hard to get the idea that all that nouns have gender, and that the that goes with the noun must have the same gender and number. So every article agrees with the noun in gender and number, okay? But what is this nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative thing all about? It's the same way. The article, the a noun has must also be the same case as the noun. So articles will always agree with the noun in gender, number, and case. Okay? And if you memorize the articles and you're looking at a noun, you're going, what case is this in? You know, because you want to know where it fits in the sentence. If you see the article that's attached to it, then you go, oh, okay, I can see that's in the dative. It's a dative feminine, you know, or whatever. Okay. So here the diagram is a little more complicated. He puts a the in front of every word. The government of the notary validated the graft of the affidavit for the grand jury. The notary of the government, the notary of the government validated the affidavit of the graft for the deputy of the grand jury. And so then he replaces it with a Greek. Now this will get a little more intense. He replaces it with a Greek article. And he says, for simplicity's sake, he's just using masculine singular. So these are all masculine singular articles. But they're in different cases because they're used in different places in the sentence. So, ha is nominative, masculine singular. So that's the that goes with notary, because it's the subject. Going down the line, ton is accusative, masculine singular, and that's the that goes with affidavit, because it's accusative, that's a direct object. The toe, under deputy, is the that goes with deputy, and it's in the dative because that's the indirect object. Okay? Notice that government, graft, and grand jury all have the same article because they're all in the genitive case. They're nouns that are used to describe a different verb. And of course, it's all masculine, nominative masculine singular because it agrees with the noun that it's modifying. Okay? And he's already posited that each of these are nominative singular nouns. Okay? So, and then he just puts it a different way here. Ha with the nominative, tu with the genitive, ton with the accusative, tu with the genitive, and ton with the dative. So now he says, just for practice, let's make all our nouns plural. So now they're all plural nouns. So, the notaries, hoi notaries, of the governments, validated the affidavits of the grafts for the deputies of the grand juries. So again, hoi is nominative, tus is accusative, tois is dative. Tone are all genitive.
Is it typical to add the article to the accusative, or not accusative, the genitive? So like,
There will be the articles that will be used that you won't translate. So again, I'll just go back to John 1:1, on page 1:9. The second phrase in John 1:1, kai alagos ein proston theon, okay? And the Word was with the God. We don't translate the God. But the reason it's there is to point out it's a specific God, the God. The one we've just referred to. Well, he hasn't referred to him yet. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the God. But we don't translate that. Okay? So sometimes we translate it, sometimes we don't. Normally with names. I mean, Jesus' name in the New Testament. Is it in there? Often it'll have an article in there, Ha Jesus, and you don't translate.
And it's good we don't. It would have created so many questions and,
Well, it's just,
I mean, they wouldn't fit.
when you translate from one language to another, there's not an exact correlation for every single word.
Yeah, no, they wouldn't.
Because the same people didn't invent each language. I was just looking to see how it's. Okay, good question. So we're at the bottom of page 3-4. The sentence has one more and a very important one at that noun slot left. And it's the object of the preposition. Preposition plus its noun, plus the modifiers of that noun, compose a word cluster called a prepositional phrase. We have that in English. Okay? The winding staircase. That's a preposition. No, up the winding staircase is a prepositional phrase. And so that has an article in it. It's got winding, which is an adjective. Yeah. So we could add a couple more. Here, this one, she wanted to be noticed by the very handsome young man. So by the very handsome young man is a prepositional phrase. And Greeks love to make prepositional phrases and put words in front of it like that. So a preposition, we saw in the last lesson, we saw a diagram on page 2.5 showing prepositions that are used directionally and spatially. See with the circle there, and the cube, and the arrows, and stuff like that. So on the top of it is peri, that means around, and But there's also prepositions that are used relationally, not just spatially and directionally. 2.5.
Hold on.
Okay.
That's a really great diagram. I've never seen that before. That's
Yeah,
pretty neat.
yeah, that
Get it in your head that way.
is helpful. But prepositions, some prepositions in Greek just like one case. Prepositions can be used with genitive, dative, and accusative. You won't find any preposition with nominative because nominative is not used as an object. So we have cases. I was just thinking of this afternoon. We have cases in English. So if he gave the ball to Sheila and me, me is an objective use of the pronoun. Okay? I gave the ball to you, I would be, I think it's called a subjective use, because it's used as a subject, right? I think that's what it's called in English grammar. So when you have an object of a preposition, you gave it to me. I'm the object of the preposition, me is the object of the preposition to. A lot of people get confused, and especially when you say Bill and I, or Bill and me, people get confused, and they don't know whether to use I or me, and it depends upon if it's the subject or the object. the object of the sentence or the object of the preposition, then it's me. If it's the subject, then it's I. So, I don't know that we call it nominative in English though, do we? I've just been in this for so many years, I can't remember English grammar that well. Anyway, so here's the object of the preposition ek. You see where we're at here? Partway down page 3.5. There's 3 lines there. The object of ek, out of, is always in the genitive case. The object of in, is always in the dative case. And the object of ace, into, is always in the accusative case. But that's not the case, no pun intended, for all prepositions. Some prepositions are not all that particular. For instance, epi, upon, can have an object in any of the 3 cases, but it would mean different things. So flip over a couple of pages to the last page in this lesson, page 3.8. Turn your book sideways. And here's a wonderful little chart that you can mark up and whatever, but you will want to refer to this many times because it's a great little chart. It shows you the cases, nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative, and vocative. The use in the sentence. It shows you the endings that you'll typically see in singular and plural with those words in those cases, in those different cases. It shows you how it's used. It's used in possession of phrases. Indirect object, direct object, subject of the infinitive. We'll get into that. Fine-tuning with prepositions. So here it gives you some of the meanings of some of the more frequently used prepositions differently depending on which case they're with. So for instance, in the genitive, the bottom of the first column says meta, with. If you look down in the dative, top of the second column, it says meta, after. So you have to look and see. This is where, again, the article can help you, because if you have preposition, article, noun, that article will tell you, okay, I know what case this is used with, so that helps me to know what the preposition means. And you can come back to this page. This will be your friend. Quantity, time, and motion, we won't talk about that. There's the articles that are used, singular and plural, for each of them as well. So that's a great little chart, or table, and we can refer to that. As a matter of fact, you'll need to refer to it when you attempt to do the assignment. Is anybody sleeping yet? No?
I'm getting a headache because I can't see anything.
Well, I was noticing when
I don't have my glasses.
What strength?
I have prescription glasses and they're at work, I think. Or they're lost, one of the two.
Okay. I'm sorry, I noticed that you were straining to see. Okay. So where are we? We're at the object of the preposition. Okay. So let's see if we can add a prepositional phrase or two to the sentence we've been working on, bottom of page 35. The notary of the government validated with an obvious personal satisfaction the affidavit by the subpoenaed witness of graft concerning bribery for the deputy of the grand jury in the waiting room. So we've added at least 4 prepositional phrases here. The notary of the government. So you see how you can use the in both of those, the notary of the government. When we first started with this, we said the government notary, okay? But the government, the notary of the government is saying the same thing. And so you might find in Greek it'll say the king of glory, and that glory is in the genitive case. It could actually be translated the glorious king. Okay, so you could translate it either way, and basically the meaning is the same. Okay. You can come up with your favorite. You might find one you think makes better sense in the context, but King of Glory is probably an older style of translating. More the modern translations would probably say the glorious King instead. But that's the difference between saying the government notary or the notary of the government. It's the notary belonging to the government. It's the notary that's associated with the government. It's the notary that's marked by the government. So that's different ways to translate a genitive. Validated with an obvious personal satisfaction. So this is an adverbial prepositional phrase because it's modifying the verb. The affidavit of the graft concerning bribery. Concerning is a preposition. By the subpoenaed witness, deputy in the waiting room, deputy of the grand jury in the waiting room. Now he says, replace the English preposition with the Greek translation and underline the object of each, and place in parentheses after each a G, D, or A, indicating what case would be required. So let's just do this. Don't turn the page yet. Because he's already done it for you on the next page. But let's just do this, okay? So the first preposition is with. So we can go to the chart and say what preposition is that? What in Greek?
What page was that on, the last page?
Yeah, 3-8. It's just a couple pages from where.
N.
Did you find it?
Is it N or is it Sun?
With.
Yeah, both of them.
Would you find two withs?
Yeah.
One under the
N is
genitive.
in with, and then Sun is with
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it would be
Sun.
the genitive one.
Oh, gender. Got it.
Yeah, with, how's that used? With satisfaction. Yeah. If it was dative, it would be more talking about location with.
Oh.
Okay. This is more relational, genitive is. Okay. So that you would put meta for the with. And what case? It's genitive, right?
Yeah.
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 So you put it, what he's asking you to do is put a G in parentheses after the satisfaction and then underline satisfaction because that's the object. If an obvious personal is not the object of the preposition. Those are an article and two adjectival words. Okay, the next one is concerning bribery. Is there a preposition here that you see?
Same thing.
What?
The genitive?
It is genitive. What is the preposition now?
Perry.
Peri, yeah. Okay. So you can see that peri in the accusative means around, but in the genitive, again, genitive is more relational. So it's concerning. And so it's genitive, and the object of the preposition is bribery, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another prepositional phrase right underneath that. By is the preposition. What Greek word would you use for by? I don't see one here.
Would it be?
Upa? There it is, by, agent, yeah.
Which case are you looking at?
Genitive. It's the last one on the second column. As if you could see it, right?
Yeah, kinda.
Okay, so it's genitive as well.
No, Travis.
I guess we're not,
Ready?
No, thanks, I'm fine.
Are you sure? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sure they're just reading glasses.
Okay, I'll try. Thanks.
Nice catch.
Ooh, I like 'em.
Fancy.
Does it help or hurt?
It helps, thank you.
Okay, good.
Yay. Okay, by, so the by, and what's the object of by? What?
Witness.
Witness?
Yeah. Subpoenaed is an adjective. And then lastly, where's the last prepositional phrase?
In?
In.
Mm.
And that is going to be the case.
Daddy? Daddy?
Dative.
Daddy.
Yep.
Wait, why is that dated?
Because in likes to be dative. That's the only case you'll find in is dative. And it's, again, dative has more to do with location. There's another case called the locative that's part of dative as well, so. As a matter of fact, we'll see that on the next page here. I think it talks about the 8-case system. That'll help you a little bit. So you can turn to the next page and see. Oh, yes, and what is the object again?
Room?
Room, correct. Okay. So there you go, we did it.
Yeah.
There is a fifth case that really has no sentence slot to live in. Maybe it isn't a true case. But it does seem to have a discrete ending sometimes. It didn't show up on the article chart because the case has no article. The way you spell, it's the way you spell someone or something when you're talking directly to him or it. And it gives you an example there, Father, forgive them. Pater. Okay? And that's a distinctly vocative ending on pater. Pater. Okay? But you won't need to learn that. Okay? So here's the 8-case system. And this kind of gives you an idea of where why some of the prepositions are used in particular cases. So genitive, you'll find words of possession and separation. So possession or separation, separating from. And so those two cases are genitive and ablative. So, and then in the dative, you'll find things that are locational or instrumental, by, with, in, or indirect object. Okay?
What does separation refer to in genitive?
Well, like from. So look at the prepositions. You have upon, away from, ek, out of. So those are separation kind of concepts. Okay? Does that make sense? Sort of.
Through.
So each of these cases, when they're using a preposition, have a concept, you know. So location, you'll find dative, because, or instrumental. Now there's two kinds of instrumental. There's instrumental of means and there's instrumental of agency. And so instrumental of agency is going to be, and it's going to be genitive. But instrumental of means is going to be dative. So that's kind of the high level, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Other case functions. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that. So here's questions to ask at the bottom of page 370. You should ask a noun 2 questions. What is its case? And the options are nominative, genitive, dative, or accusative. This is a good summary to be familiar with. What is its number? That's the other question. The options are singular and plural. Okay? You should ask an adjective or pronoun 3 questions. What is its case? Options, nominative, genitive, dative, or accusative. What is its number? Singular or plural. And what is its gender? Masculine, feminine, or neuter. A noun has its own gender. It doesn't change genders. But adjectives or pronouns or articles change gender depending on what noun they're being used with. So ruach, which means spirit, is always going to be neuter. That's, I mean, it's never going to be used in a masculine. It's always going to be neuter because the word is neuter. Okay. Anthropos is masculine. It's man. It's always going to be masculine. Yeah. So, just another little note there at the bottom. Infinitives are always singular number, neuter, and gender. So, and then verbs and adjectives retain, yeah, we'll get into infinitive and participle in lesson 4. So what I'd like to do is go with you to the worksheet and kind of help you work through it a little bit, just to make sure you understand what each of the things are that it's asking for here. There's 3 pages. We're done pronouncing the words, okay? If you saw the email I sent you, I did a little bit of that in the email I sent out. I said, see tonight. I even put my name in it. I've never done that. Anyway, so here's the articles. This is just like stimulating you to be able to do it. So if you see tone, you know you're looking at, it's not up here, because I didn't do the plurals up here, but it's genitive plural, masculine, feminine, and neuter. So just practice writing them out. And then every, let's see. Okay, so now we're talking about case number gender in any of these 6 articles. So if you see C, high, you should be able to recognize, because I could finish this. This is hoi, high, ta, tone, getting tone deaf here. Tus, tas, ta. Tus. I made that like a U. Tas. Ta. And this is twice. Tice. Twice. I can still do it after 50 years.
Yeah. Still here.
It's not something you normally do when you're trying to translate the Bible, is to write out a chart. But anyway. All right. This next exercise, I think, will be fun. On the next page. It'll be fun for me. Hopefully it'll be fun for you too. So this is still working with articles. So he gives you a noun, and of course if it's boys, you're going to know that it's masculine
Plural.
and plural. And you're going to know that it's nominative because it's the subject of the sentence. Okay?
I know that, they want you to put it in Hawaii.
Hoi, yeah.
Hold on.
So that's,
I don't know yet.
huh?
I don't know yet.
Yes.
The word.
Well, they're all right there in front now. So, so F, the article there, what would be the case for that particular one? By where it is in the sentence.
The ball hit the girls, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
So, dative? No, accusative.
Okay. It's because the girls were being hit by the ball, so they're the direct object.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're the direct object, which would be accusative.
Accusative.
Correct. Okay. So you're going to have to figure out where it is in the sentence to know what case it should be in. And that should be fairly simple. I don't know, is there any object of prepositions? Yeah, no. Judge heard the plea of the defendants. Of, yeah, heard the plea. What about that one, L? The judge heard the plea of the defendants. What part of, where does defendants fit in the sentence?
It's a prepositional phrase, and it's,
It is in English, but in Greek it's not a prepositional phrase.
Is it an indirect object?
It's an indirect object.
Are there any indirect objects in English that aren't prepositional phrases?
so that would be,
Um,
date, that would be twice.
Yes. That's a good question. What was the question again?
Any indirect objects in English that aren't
Oh,
prepositional?
indirect object. I was looking here, you said it would be twice, and I'm looking at it, and I've got tone in here, and I'm going, you're right, I'm wrong. But I did this 40 years ago.
It's dative,
so-
right? It's dative case, because it's.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, I can't think of anything right off the top. Can you see the importance of learning the cases in the articles well? For a final practice, fill in all the blanks in the following sentences. So the jury gave the verdict to the judge of the court. See, we have no preposition that's of in Greek. So that's not going to be, it's going to be another option other than prepositional phrase. So it's going to be indirect option. For a quick review of the alphabet, write out the following Greek words. Oh, look at this. This goes way back to lesson 1. In
I love
equivalent
lesson one.
English letters, huh?
I like lesson 1.
Remember when life was much simpler?
I thought that was hard then.
So these are actually Greek words, but they're also English words. So,
Okay.
and then 9, remember those breathing marks? Now we're going back to breathing marks. Okay? There's more than one option for some of these. I see 3 options for.
Right, right.
Remember, epsilon iota is pronounced how?
A.
A. Alpha iota is pronounced I. Oh! Diagram the sentence we've been working on by assuming all the nouns are in the feminine gender and then placing the proper Greek article in the article slots. So that'll get you practicing feminine singular articles. Diagram the following Greek sentence using the article as the indicator of the sentence slot of the noun modifiers. Oh boy. These 2 are going to be a little challenge. If you don't get them, we'll work on them next week.
Ooh, then we have to dive.
Can I ask a question about the case stuff? I'm kind of stuck, frozen in time on,
Okay.
because when we first started talking about the cases today, we were talking about them in relation with the sentence diagrams
Right. and
and talking about where they fit in was how we figured out what the case was, right? And then we got to this thing on page 3.6 where all of a sudden we're talking about the cases are determined by things like whether they're possessions or where it has to do with the location or which is, to me, the way my brain's working right now, a very different way of categorizing the cases.
Well, but we're talking about prepositional phrases there, okay? So the prepositions kind of dictate what the meaning is. I mean, so some prepositions will only be used in one case. So, for instance, in the diagram on page, that we looked at on page 2.5, these are all spatial and motion meanings for the preposition. There's no relational ones in here, for the most part. But if you see the one going through the cube, going up diagonally through the cube, and it's dia, through, in the genitive it means through. In the accusative it means on account of. Okay? Completely different meaning. So you have to know what case it's being used with, and that's determined by what the meaning is of that word. So, and you know, prepositions in English mean a lot of different things too. You know, but we don't have to change the case that they're used with in order to.
So when I'm doing this worksheet
Yeah.
and trying to figure out which article to put in based on which case it is, should I be thinking of the sentence diagrams, or should I be thinking about this table on 3.6 where?
Well, if it's a part of a prepositional phrase, you need to look at the preposition.
So this is just for the prepositional phrase?
Right.
Okay, I didn't
In-
see
in
where that
these-
was made clear.
In these
Even in the
examples,
text
there's,
of the book.
in these examples, there's no prepositional phrases. Okay. These, number 8 and 9, the last two in the worksheet. But you've got Greek words, so that's kind of interesting, because they tell you which one the verb is. Eucharist, Euchariste, and that means he gives thanks. He thanks. Euchariste. He thanks. So,
Oh, down there.
but notice that the word order is not an English word order. So that's where you're going to have the cases to know where it fits into the sentence. And that's the way Greek really is. That's the way it is in the New Testament. The word order is not an English word order.
Does the word order vary from sentence to sentence, or is it kind of like the verb will always be first and then so forth?
Many times it's put in the first position because it's being emphasized. So the word that the author wants to emphasize in that sentence is put at the front of the sentence sometimes.